The worst thing you can say in manifestation is, I forgive, but I'll never forget. Because if you don't forget, you are still identifying with it. And if you are still identifying with it, you are still admitting it. And if you are still admitting it, you are going to continue to experience it again and again. Because there's no such thing as, well, it happened 2 years ago in manifestation. There is only now. So every single time you are emotionally remembering being cheated on, being abandoned, ghosted, betrayed, or things just simply not working out for you, your subconscious does not register that as a memory. It registers it as identity and as if this is currently happening right now. Therefore, you do not manifest what you want, you always manifest exactly who you are being. Hello, my angel babies, and welcome back to another video. Now, today we are talking about revision, not the cute surface level version, the real version, the version that actually changes your life. Because I know that a lot of you are affirming and continuing to loop the end scene like a broken record, but you are still remembering the past incorrectly. So this is why your manifestations feel blocked. So today in this video, I want us to break this down because time does not exist in manifestation. There is truly only now. So when you say things like, I was cheated on, I was left for someone else, I was betrayed, your subconscious is hearing, I am someone who gets cheated on. I am someone who gets abandoned or overlooked. I am someone who just seems to always get betrayed. Now, your ego does not argue with the past, it argues with the future. So, this may be why when you are affirming, I'm chosen, I'm so secure, I'm loved, your ego wants the proof almost immediately. Because when you remember betrayal or you're telling the old story, your ego is automatically going to go into, yeah, that's true. And what feels true is always going to manifest. And the most common thing I really see is pride. The whole I forgive, but I don't forget. Now, I grew up hearing this all the time from my parents, and I used to really resonate with that. I was really thinking that it was protecting me because it feels strong, right? It feels like boundaries, it feels empowered, but energetically, it is attachment because you are choosing to keep identifying with the version of you who was hurt and needs to protect themselves. So you cannot be the person who is chosen and the person who was abandoned at the same exact time. Two identities cannot run your reality. One is always going to win, and it's usually the one that is backed by this emotional memory. So, this is typically why you see these patterns keep repeating. Now, something that I see is let's say, for example, you are getting into a talking stage with someone new or you're dating. I want you to really observe the stories that you're telling about yourself because the way that you're introducing yourself, the way that you're really explaining your past and these different scenarios that happened, that is ultimately who you are identifying with. Now, some people will go into these new relationships with this hopeful identity of, if I just explain my past and I tell them every single thing that happened to me, this is how I am setting my expectations. These are my new standards. And if they just understand me and understand what was going on and how maybe men or women treated me, they're going to now take that and do the complete opposite. But really, what you're seeing is as you're going into this awareness, maybe you're bringing up scenarios of, typically men and women have done this to me, or when I'm in a relationship, these are the things that have happened to me. I've always been left, or there's always a third party in the picture, or someone always leaves, or I stayed out of comfort. Whatever it is that you're telling and explaining to this person with the hopes that they're going to change and conform because of you replaying your past, it is actually doing the exact opposite. So when you are going into a relationship and you're talking to these people, I really want you to observe exactly what it is that you're saying because this is the true story that you are still identifying with. Now, after you do this, what I see very commonly with people is they've explained their entire past circumstances or went into the details of their old relationship. And now you are scanning for your new partner to do these same things. So you're looking almost for the shoe to drop again. You're looking to see if they're going to go follow all these girls on Instagram. You're looking to see if you can trust them. And because of that, you are still stuck in that identity, and you're going to usually experience either this person pulling away. You'll start noticing, maybe their following going up, and it's like, oh, see, I knew like they were going to do the same exact thing. When, because you just opened up this awareness and you just went back to the past, your brain is perceiving as this is a continuous thing that you experience. Therefore, no matter how many times you explain to this person all the things that happened to you, and then they go and repeat that same pattern and habit, you want to blame them. You want to say, see, this always happens to me. Men and women are all the same. They all do the same things to me. Maybe love just doesn't work out for me. Whatever it is that is happening, the second that you are now seeing this pattern reoccurring, that is where you have to flip it. Because if you genuinely keep remembering yourself as you were cheated on, you are not someone who got cheated on. Your brain is believing you are someone who gets cheated on. If you keep remembering, being displaced or abandoned, you are not someone who was experiencing those things. You are someone who is exactly what you said. You are someone who is overlooked and abandoned, because that becomes your lens, that becomes your assumption, and that becomes your story, because that is the thing you dominantly keep repeating. And we know reality repeats, not because men and women are the same, but because you never changed that identity. So no matter how much time you spent, alone, or, looking for different types or switching your type, all of those things are going to keep pushing out, because that is the law. You are always going to manifest the version of yourself who you are being. So you have to be very honest with yourself and really observe the identity and lens that you are still explaining yourself from, because that is where your awareness still is. Now, I have always been a revision girly. And I know that revision to a lot of people seems kind of woo-woo and magical, but I feel this is where most people get this wrong, because you don't need to revise every single ex. I like to go to the root, the very first moment, the first betrayal, the first emotional activation, that first time you felt you weren't chosen or you were abandoned, the first time you can remember not feeling good enough, because that is where the identity was born. So if you revise that, everything that came after is going to loosen its grip, because the root is no longer stable. So let me be very clear when I say revision is not delusion. It's not gaslighting yourself. It's simply just selecting a new identity. It's going to relax your body, and you're able to go back to that first memory and see it differently. You narrate it as perfect and you loop it until it feels neutral to you, because you are not changing the past. You're not doing this magical spell on it. You are changing who you are being right now. Because when who you are being changes, your reality can finally reorganize to prove those beliefs right. So, since you are simply shifting your perspective that is still keeping you safe by their perception of these memories, once that perception is shifted from that version of you, your reality is going to conform, and you're not going to have all of this internal commentary and chatter trying to continue to bring up all of these old stories, circumstances, and events that are tied to that identity. So, with a lot of clients, I typically see them needing this apology before they feel they can move forward. So if you feel you are still needing someone to apologize to you, I want to be very clear that you are still identifying as the version of you who was wronged. So as long as you feel you need this justice, you are not going to be able to experience peace in your manifestation. As long as you need them to admit they hurt you, you are still carrying on to that hurt, because what you are carrying, you are emitting, and what you emit, you are going to continue to keep experiencing this. Now, for your person, on the other end of it, this can show up as them feeling guilty and not taking action or getting thoughts of anger and guilt, or maybe even still carrying those emotions towards you because you have not fully allowed yourself to let that go either. So I'm sure that you have received an apology before, but if you are really honest with yourself, it may be a temporary relief of, yes, I got the apology or they took accountability, but then maybe hours or days later, your brain is still bringing these stories and these emotions up and replaying the past, and it feels like the apology never happened. And this happens because there truly is no one to change but self. Because the moment that your resentment dissolves, they either are going to conform or they conform and you choose to let them go and reselect. But ultimately, it is always going to end up in your hands because your reality is always going to show up based off of your own assumptions. Now, either way, you always get what you want and you are the selector. So, I have revised things in my own life that completely dissolve so many patterns. Anytime I did my revision, it has always dissolved my current circumstances that I felt I really couldn't get over. And this can honestly go for money too, because when I was revising my own family's money history, it ended up with a big piece of land being granted and a big payout. Now, I also was doing revision with different versions of me in middle school around friendships and things like that, because a lot of roots around my friendships had a lot of wounds in them from that time in school for me. So when I did this work, the people and circumstances honestly changed completely. I had so many people reaching out, sending me memories of things I genuinely forgot about, and just a lot of good love that was able to finally surface. And I can see it wasn't always as bad as my brain made it out to be. It really allowed the identity to see that I always did have a belonging. I really was loved. I was included. I was wanted in the ways that I wasn't able to see then. So another client that I had worked with was doing the same thing with her family. And when she did this, a big stock hit and they were able to do a huge cash out. So they no longer have to struggle for money ever. And I'm just so excited for that amount of relief because all we did was go in and revise those moments where money felt really scarce and those moments in her childhood where she really felt that her family maybe wasn't even going to be able to keep the roof over their heads or have food to eat, which is very, very, very emotionally overwhelming. But because you have the tools of nervous system regulation, when these memories come up, if it is something very hard for you, you now have something to relieve that, because sometimes even though you do get a plethora of all these really good emotions and new memories resurfacing, sometimes people do have their awareness open up into maybe things that they forgot about that were really hurtful or painful. But I want you to just be very gentle with yourself and give yourself grace if you do experience this, because sometimes we do have memories associated with very deep trauma. And while I am not a clinical therapist or anything like that, this does not negate for you going and having any professional work done. This is just something simple for a mindset shift that you can use and also be able to use new tools that are going to replace the things in the past that kept you going down the loophole in the old story. So I have honestly watched clients revise childhood abandonment and stop attracting these third parties in. I've had them get rid of third parties by doing these revision pieces, no longer experiencing ghosting. I have just genuinely had so many people revise all kinds of amazing things in their reality to a point it does feel magical. It feels very unexplainable to the logical, conscious mind. And this is just simply because the identity collapsed. And once the identity dissolves, that pattern now has nothing to attach to. So if you want more success stories on revision, comment below and I will read some of my client emails, because this stuff is just honestly so, so exciting to me. It's one of my favorite things. So if you truly want secure love, or if you want consistency, if you want peace, you have to genuinely stop remembering yourself as the victim. You have to choose and select a brand new past. You have to become a new identity and let the world truly rearrange for you. Because I like to look at revision as forgiveness. Now, it's for the forgiveness is not for them, it is always going to be for you. And when you finally forgive correctly and change that perception of an older version of you, you stop experiencing what you used to call bad luck and you start experiencing yourself differently. And that is truly the whole point of manifestation. Okay, so I know this hit for you. I want you to comment down below. I choose differently, and I will see you next time, my loves.